So it costs about $50 an hour to employ a typical human office worker. That covers salary, health insurance, basic office space, stuff like that. But renting a computer to do that exact same work costs just $2.50 an hour.
Yeah, I mean, that is a massive 20-to-1 discount. When you look at it, the financial math seems completely obvious.
Right. Obvious enough that every business owner on earth should be firing their staff today. I mean, the unemployment line should literally be miles long right now. But we look around and, well, that is just not happening. Why?
Because the market is suffering from this massive illusion right now. People assume this technology will just, seamlessly take over all jobs by tomorrow morning. They think the transition will be instant.
And investors are acting on that exact assumption. They are blindly throwing money at any stock that even mentions those two letters because they are terrified of missing out on the boom.
Which is a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Most people will actually lose money in this stock boom, which sounds crazy. But they are just chasing the wrong things entirely.
Exactly. So we are going to figure out why this supposed takeover is hitting massive speed bumps. For you listening, we will explore the actual limits of the technology and the severe physical bottlenecks slowing everything down.
Yeah, and we will also track where the real trillions of dollars are actually flowing. Because the smart money is moving in a very different direction than the public hype.
So let us start with how the stock market is behaving right now. A lot of companies are desperately trying to look like pioneers here.
They certainly are. Right now, about 21% of the top 500 companies actively brag about using this tech. They plaster it all over their press releases and, their investor calls.
It reminds me exactly of the dot-com bubble in the late 1990s. Back then, if a boring company just added .com to their name, their stock price exploded overnight. And people are running the exact same playbook today.
They are, but the market is actually starting to catch on. The stock market is currently punishing companies that only offer software hype. We are at this moment of, peak uncertainty.
Wait, why are they being punished? I mean, if a company announces a shiny new product, shouldn't investors be thrilled?
Not if it is just a superficial wrapper around someone else's technology. Investors realize that literally anyone can build a basic software tool right now. The real winners today are the actual adopters.
Okay, so break down what an adopter looks like. How are they different from the companies writing those flashy press releases?
Well, adopters are companies quietly using the tech to cut their own internal costs. They're not trying to sell new products to the public. They're simply using the tools to do their normal jobs better.
Oh, right. Like a shipping company using it to calculate complex delivery routes in seconds. Or maybe a retail chain automating their basic human resources paperwork.
Precisely. And the numbers show this quiet strategy is incredibly effective. These adopting companies are seeing their cash flow margins grow twice as fast as the global average.
Twice as fast is massive. That means they are keeping significantly more of the revenue they bring in. They're actually capturing that 20-to-1 discount we talked about at the start.
Yeah, because they are doing the hard work of internal integration. They look at their balance sheet, they find expensive bottlenecks, and they apply the software to fix them.
So if you are looking at your own investment portfolio, this is like the first major lesson. You have to ignore the software hype and look for the quiet adopters.
Exactly. Look for the companies using the technology to boost their actual bottom line. You really need to ignore the companies that just want to sound trendy.
But this brings up a huge question for me. If this software is so cheap and it cuts costs so well, why isn't it everywhere immediately? Why are there any speed bumps at all?
It all comes down to how this technology actually thinks.
Yeah.
People believe it reasons through problems like a human being does, but really it just guesses patterns.
Wait, so it does not actually understand the spreadsheet it just made for you? It is more like a giant, super fast autocomplete on your phone.
That is a great way to picture it, actually. It predicts the next logical piece of information based on massive amounts of data. And because it just guesses based on patterns, it has hard limits.
Give me an idea of those limits. How accurate is this pattern guessing in a real work environment?
Well, when the latest model tries a simple task that would take a human 2 hours, it gets it right 80% of the time. That is a very solid success rate for short bursts of work.
Yeah, I would happily take an 80% success rate to save 2 hours of boring paperwork. But what happens when the work gets harder?
That is the catch. If you give that same system a complex 12-hour task, its success rate drops to just 50%. The accuracy just falls off a cliff as the task gets longer.
But wait, 50% does not sound terrible when the computer works in seconds. Why not just tell the machine to run the 12-hour task 10 different times? I mean, one of those tries is bound to be a total success.
The problem is finding the successful one. Think of a long task like playing a massive game of telephone. If the machine makes a tiny guessing error in minute 1, every single step after that is based on a false premise.
Ah, I see. So by the end of the 12 hours, the final result might be a complete hallucination. And the machine has no idea it even made a mistake.
Exactly. And you do not know where the error happened either. A human has to comb through all 12 hours of generated work just to find the mistake and fix it.
Which completely defeats the purpose of automating the work in the first place. I mean, checking the broken work takes as long as just doing the work yourself.
Right, and this is why a 50% success rate is a complete disaster in the real business world. If you need a legal contract written, you cannot rely on a machine that flips a coin on complex details.
Yeah, a tax accountant cannot be right only half the time. If they are, they lose their license, and you probably go to jail.
Exactly. And this brings up a crucial distinction. The tech is changing individual tasks, but it is not destroying entire jobs overnight. A job is a complex portfolio of hundreds of different tasks.
Right, so reading a dense legal document in 5 seconds is a task. The software is great at that. But negotiating a nuanced deal with a difficult client based on that document, well, that is a job.
Yes, the software lacks the social intuition and emotional intelligence to manage the full portfolio of a real job. It can really only handle the isolated, predictable tasks.
Okay, so if the software is fundamentally limited by these hallucinations, then the only way to make it smarter is to feed it more data. You have to throw brute force computing power at it. And I guess that leads us to the physical world.
It does. People often forget that this stuff does not live in a magical, invisible cloud. It lives inside physical data centers on massive racks of servers.
And because these companies are desperate to overcome the software limits, they're building new hardware at just an insane pace.
We are witnessing a massive industrial build-out right now. This is not just a digital software update anymore. There will be nearly $3 trillion spent on data center construction alone by 2028.
$3 trillion is a number so big it honestly loses all meaning. What does a build-out of that size actually look like on the ground?
Let me give you a shocking example. A major tech company is currently building a single data center in the state of Wisconsin. And the budget for this one facility is $100 billion.
$100 billion for a single computer building. That sounds like the budget for an international space program.
It is on a completely unprecedented scale. And here is the truly crazy part. When finished, this single facility will consume more electricity than the entire city of Los Angeles.
Stop right there. One computer facility will use more power than millions of people living their daily lives in a major city. How is that physically possible?
It comes down to power density. Traditional cloud servers, the ones that host websites or store your photos, they use a normal amount of electricity. But these new chips are entirely different beasts.
Because they are doing billions of rapid-fire calculations just to guess those patterns we talked about, so they must run incredibly hot.
Oh, they run so hot that traditional air conditioning cannot cool them at all. They require specialized liquid cooling systems and entirely new plumbing within the buildings. The power draw is astronomical.
So you cannot just plug one of these new data centers into the existing power grid. The grid would probably just instantly overload and shut down.
Exactly. You need fundamentally different infrastructure. And this shows why the global supply chain is currently breaking under the pressure.
Let us connect this back to that 20-to-1 discount from the beginning. If a company wants to replace 10 million human workers, they need tens of millions of these specialized chips.
But we simply do not have the chips, the cooling systems, or the electricity to do that yet. Right now, it takes 3 to 5 years just to get a new data center connected to the power grid.
Wait, 3 to 5 years just to plug the building in? Why does it take so long? Just build some solar panels or string up some new power lines.
Well, you cannot write code to magically create a copper wire. You need massive industrial transformers, and there's a huge global shortage of them. The physical world moves much slower than the digital world.
Ah, so if you want to follow the real money, you have to look at these physical bottlenecks. You cannot have this technological revolution without copper wire, concrete, and electricity.
That is exactly where the real constraint is. Look at the companies upgrading the power grids. Look at the companies manufacturing the liquid cooling systems.
But let us imagine a company actually gets the chips. They manage to secure the power and build the servers. They still have to integrate the software into a business run by human beings.
Which brings us to the final speed bump. Because even with unlimited computing power, human rules and corporate red tape slow everything down to a crawl.
What does that timeline look like for a normal enterprise trying to use this technology tomorrow?
It is painfully slow. It takes a typical enterprise 18 to 36 months just to go from testing a tool to actually using it across the company.
18 to 36 months makes no sense to me. I mean, it is just software. You download it, create user accounts for your employees, and tell them to get to work.
If only it were that simple. Big corporations have incredibly messy, disorganized data. They might have human resources files on a 10-year-old server, sales data in a modern cloud app, and inventory tracked in manual spreadsheets.
And the system needs all of that information to be perfectly clean and connected to make good decisions.
Yes, if you feed it messy, outdated data, it will confidently give your executives parable advice. Reorganizing and cleaning a massive company's data takes years of tedious human labor.
But businesses are obsessed with cutting costs. If a CEO sees a competitor moving fast, won't they just skip the data cleanup and rush the testing phase?
They want to, but they are terrified of the ultimate liability trap. Let's imagine an algorithm gives terrible financial advice to a wealthy client.
And that client follows the advice and loses millions of dollars. The client is obviously going to sue someone to get their money back.
But who do they sue? You cannot put a line of computer code in handcuffs. You cannot serve legal papers to an algorithm.
That is a fascinating problem. Does the client sue the software company that coded it or the bank that chose to use it?
The legal system has not fully figured out who is responsible yet, and until the law is crystal clear, big companies will move very cautiously. They do not want to be the one taken to court.
Because the bank does not want to become a massive liability sponge for a machine's hallucinations. They take on all the financial risk if the machine guesses wrong.
This is even more extreme in heavily regulated fields. In healthcare, for instance, medical regulators are currently taking 12 to 24 months just to approve a single diagnostic tool.
So if a hospital uses an algorithm to scan an X-ray, they still need a human doctor to review it. The human has to sign their name to the final diagnosis.
Right, the human acts as the legal safety net. The machine might scan the X-ray in 2 seconds and highlight a problem, but the human holds the ultimate responsibility. The tech supports human decisions, but it does not replace the human.
Wow, this entire conversation completely shifts how we should look at this boom. The technological leap is incredibly real, but it is fundamentally a slow, grinding industrial project.
It really is. It is a massive construction project bound by the laws of physics and the speed of human regulation. It is not an overnight magic trick.
So if you want to protect your wallet and your career, you have to ignore the panic about massive immediate job losses. You also need to ignore the companies just slapping software wrappers on old products.
Exactly. Follow the physical infrastructure build-out. Look at the power grids, the cooling systems, and the smart corporate adopters who are quietly improving their profit margins.
Well, we have unpacked the hardware bottlenecks, the software hallucinations, and the legal red tape. I'm tapping out here. This has been a lot to process.
Then I will leave you with one final thought to mull over. We spend all our time worrying about the jobs this technology might destroy, but we completely ignore the massive new markets it is going to create.
Give me an example of that. What kind of new markets are we talking about?
Take the legal industry as a perfect example. Right now, 92% of low-income families cannot afford any legal help whatsoever.
Right. If they have an eviction notice or a contract dispute, they are entirely on their own because human lawyers are simply too expensive.
But imagine if this technology suddenly makes basic legal services incredibly cheap. We might not lose human lawyer jobs at all.
Oh, I see. Because the legal industry might get 10 times bigger. Millions of new people can finally afford to enter the market.
Exactly. The technology lowers the barrier, the pie gets massive, and we suddenly need more humans to manage the incredible new demand. So keep that in mind the next time someone confidently tells you the economy is about to be completely destroyed.